Hello everyone and welcome back to Basics, a new project from Talking League, third episode here, and we are going to be looking at the basics. Now, Brenton, this is where we're actually going to start talking about the game itself and the way it's structured, and as we see here, 21-man squad, essentially we have a starting 13, bench 10 million salary cap, 27 rounds, 44 trades. Start with the trades. 44 seems like a lot, but as we know from previous years, it doesn't always end up being that way.
No, it doesn't. It's very important to conserve your trades where you can because there's a lot of people who run out of trades before that round 20. And then injury strikes in round 18, 19, and you're not fielding a full team and you end up falling behind both in your head-to-head leagues and in the Classic overall.
Yes, absolutely. So that's going to be something we're going to talk about later in the series around your trade strategy and methodology. But the main things you want to see here are the 21-man squad and the starting 13, which we'll get into now. So with the 21-man squad, you have a starting 13 of one hooker, two middle forwards, actually there's three middle forwards, two edge forwards. I'm on fire here. I need to be sent back to basics. Two halves, two centres, and three winger fullbacks. The bench is positionless though, Brenton. That's what I want to focus on here because, as we know, middle forwards, you get three of them on the field, not two, and your two halves, they tend to be the best scoring positions. However, we don't want to bench completely full of those because we need some cover in there for the other positions.
Exactly right. And especially since the 17th team came into the league and you have teams that are on bye rounds, you need to have cover and not too many players from the same team because that team has a bye. All of a sudden, you're making a whole bunch of trades that you shouldn't realistically need to when there may be other players that you could have had so you weren't overstacking on, let's say, a Roosters team for this year.
Absolutely. So that's going to be a concept we'll cover in a subsequent video in terms of how we balance our squad out. But the main thing is with that bench, the possibilities are endless. You can have players from any position and dual positions, which we'll talk about in the sixth episode. But Brenton, let's get to the coach's mission. Now, if we're talking classic here, which is what this series is mainly around, we've got our 10 million salary cap of 21 players, and we want to build that to the strongest team possible. And in your experience, how big does that team value need to get yourself a really, really strong side by the end of the year?
Yeah, you normally need to build up to about 14 to 15 million if you can. It all depends on how your what they call cash cows perform. So all the players that you've bought cheap but have made you money because they are scoring higher than the average price that they are priced at. So very important to balance the squad to make sure that those players are making you the money.
Absolutely, because the aim at the end of the day is we want to score as many points as possible over every round so we can get the best overall classic rank possible. And another challenge that comes with that is with the buys. You mentioned it there with standalone buys, but we also have the major buy round period, which, as we know, not only do we have multiple rounds where there's multiple teams missing, but we also miss out on State of Origin players for a little bit.
That's correct. And this year, it's actually a little bit easier for these new coaches because in the minor buy rounds previously, you had to field 17. In all the buy rounds this year, you only have to field 13. But has to be in those positions that came up in the previous slide, being your one hooker, three mids, two edge, two half, two centres, and three wing fullbacks. So that's why it's also very important to make sure you have depth in your squad.
Absolutely. And just repeating your correct news there, three mids and two edges, not the other way around like
Did
the
that on
graphic
purpose.
said. You did. And that's a great example of what we're about here. We're about having fun. So playing with your mates in the NRL Fantasy community is a great way to get involved. Of course, Talking League, we are quite a large fantasy family, and that's the best part. Being part of this podcast and as well jumping in the socials, Brenton. You can talk to like-minded people that love talking about fantasy and get some new ideas and improve your knowledge of the game along the way.
Exactly right. And at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a bad idea as long as you've got the theory behind it to back it up. Because there's so many times that high ranked players will be like, oh, I didn't actually think of doing that, and it's actually turned out to be one of the best moves.
Absolutely, and that's something that we'll come across in this video is we'll give you ideas and recommendations on how to play the game, but we're not giving you a definitive guide that this is the way that you have to play because you might follow the rules that we kind of set or guidelines in terms of setting your team up, and it might backfire at any given point. So just keep that in mind. It is about having fun, and if you're not involved in the money prizes in the top 10, it's all about having that fun. But in terms of scoring points, you can see on the screen here all the different categories for scoring. There's an awful lot there. We're not going to go through them in this video. I do recommend if you want more knowledge of those to jump onto the NRL Fantasy website, head to the help section, and in the guidelines you'll see all those there. But Brenton, that wraps up this episode. What are the takeaways from it?
So takeaways is you start with your $10 million. I generally recommend to try and use as much of it as possible, but maybe leaving a little bit of money in the bank for when you need to make trades in the subsequent rounds. You build it with a 21-man squad, 13 position, 8 positionless. Again, the positions are hooker, mid, edge, half, center, and wing fullback. And the most important point that you can ever take from this is have fun with it, have fun with your mates, have fun with the community, and if you are an intermediate or advanced coach, also help out the beginners.
Absolutely. We want to help everyone out, and that's what this is about. And of course, this is what this YouTube channel is about. If you haven't subscribed to Talking League Shorts, please do so. But otherwise, feel free to join us in episode 4 where we go through some of the lingo. But it's bye for now.